Hey friends, over 60% of you are listening to me right now on an Apple product. iPhone, iPad, iTunes. I need your help. The truth is, Apple will make this podcast more discoverable to new listeners the more reviews it has. So I'm here asking you to take a moment and leave a review. If you've gained any value from this podcast, the greatest thing you can do for it, besides spreading the word and telling friends, is leaving a review. It's real simple. If you're on your phone, head over to my podcast page within the Apple Podcast app and leave a review. Or if you're on a computer, you can head over to my podcast page within the iTunes app. That's it. That's all I ask. And if you have other podcasts that you love, do them a favor and do the same for them. It'll make their day. Now let's get this podcast started already. Friday, 5:58 a.m. Good morning. On my way to work, making that commute happen. That's right. It is cold in Virginia. It's like 41 degrees outside. And let me tell you, it's really cold. We've been kind of playing this yo-yo game with the weather here lately in Virginia where one day it's like already up to 70, and then on another day it's 40 in the morning. So you can imagine how if you were somebody that got sick easily, which can happen to me at times, where that is going to happen. Thankfully, knock on wood, and I don't have any wood in this car to knock on, but I'm not sick yet. I say yet because I know inevitably it's coming. This has been quite the week this week, and I say that in mostly positive terms. I mean, everything's been good. I lost, 2 pounds since we last spoke. Very thrilled about that. I attended a concert the other night. I skipped my Wednesday gym day and made it up yesterday, so that I could go see Chris Lane and Morgan Wallen in concert. And that concert was nothing short of amazing. I'm so glad that I went. I'm so glad that I decided to push off the gym just by one day and go to this event. This concert, rather. Not event. Well, it was an event. It was quite the event. And to see these guys play. Morgan Wallen, never saw him live before. I know of 2 of his songs. Most recently, the song Up Down that he did with Florida Georgia Line, which is a jam and a half. Can you be a jam and a half? I don't know. I'm making that a thing, that something is a jam and a half when I think it's just amazing. Like, it's really good. Just call it a jam and a half. And then he had this other song called The Way I Talk, which I don't know that it went on to become like a huge hit, but I according to him on stage, he said that this song did very well for them, so I could see why it's a great song. Singles seem to do bigger for a lot of the people now than it used to. I guess it's with the whole iTunes and selling songs as opposed to, I mean, they still sell full records, but just that idea of, we have this one song and that's really what's gonna push us to where we want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of the idea. And, hey, I mean, if it works, it works. It is rare, though, in this day and age where you get a whole album that's really good. Let's be honest. A lot of artists, you get 2 or 3 really good songs on an album and the rest is kind of just throwaway. Like, they don't suck, but they don't blow you away either, and that's kind of unfortunate, I think. Wow, my temperature just went down to 39. Oof, that's not fun. Supposed to be going back to King's Dominion tonight. Yes, I went last week. Probably talk about that later. But I'm going back today. This is like the last weekend you can go, so I am going. And I re-up my season pass for next year, so I'll be back. But just like me, I'm all over the place. Back to the concert. So Chris Lane, I saw him. This is probably my third, maybe fourth time seeing him live. And he gets better every time I see him. I mean, literally every time I see him, he gets better. I really, really enjoy seeing him live. His stage presence, his performance just improves time after time. And, every other time I've seen him, he's been great. So it's not like, oh, he sucked before and suddenly he got better. Like, that's not even close to the case. He's just gotten better and better. So kudos to him. This was his first headlining tour. I saw him after the show and I just told him how proud I was of him as somebody who kind of saw him when he was on a smaller level, and I don't even think Fix was on the radio yet. Maybe if it was, it just got to radio, and I was just telling him, like, man, so proud to see you, like, how you were opening for Dustin Lynch. I saw him twice on that tour, hung out with him on the Silver Spring date on the bus after the show. That was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll tell that story one day. And I was just telling him, like, dude, man, I'm so freaking proud of you, man. You're crushing it. You're doing a hell of a job. You are, you're out here headlining this show, and, like, people are reacting. Like, it's just amazing to watch the artists rise. Like, you've got your artists that you're into, and if you're lucky enough, you catch them early on, so that way you can watch them rise. And to me, there's nothing more exciting than watching the artist rise. The thing about Chris is that he's in an interesting position right now, or in general, because in the state of a lot of music, and I'm going to say more specifically country, because that's kind of what we're really talking about here, there's a lot of artists that are doing like a blend of pop in their music, and it's getting mixed results to a certain degree. Like, I feel like most people like it, but then you've got like your diehard country people who hate it because they want like the old school kind of country. So for me, I come from a different background in the sense of I like everything. Like, when I grew up, I liked Metallica, I liked Nirvana. But on that same token, I liked NSYNC. Like, yeah, that's what that's all about. Like, I listened to everything. When I grew up, I remember being like 8, 9 years old listening to Top 40 radio. I remember hearing Amy Grant's Baby Baby on the radio multiple times. I remember hearing, Technotronics, Pump Up the Jam, CNC Music Factory. I'm really dating myself now. Really dating myself. And as I grew up, yes, I kind of got it more into rock. I clung more to rock. There was a couple of years where I shut out all pop and went like all rock, Nirvana, Metallica, 2 different kinds of rock, by the way. And I was just all over the map. And then kind of, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I started to get back into top 40 again. And this is kind of like when, the NSYNCs, the Backstreets, Britney, a lot of pop was very prominent in music. Spice Girls, yes, I'm not afraid to say, yes, I listen to the Spice Girls. Shoot me, okay? And then, kind of in that same time, as I got to the early 2000s, I discovered underground music like emo, indie, pop punk, hardcore, a little bit of mixture of everything. And that took my life over for 7 years while I was in bands. That music and that music alone, with a couple of guilty pleasures sprinkled in, was my primary source of music, was those, the indie, the underground stuff. Like hearing the album Through Being Cool by Saves the Day changed my life. Like, it showed me that there was a different style of music that I didn't even know existed. A year later, New Found Glory releases their self-titled album titled New Found Glory, And that, also had a big impact on my life. And there were other records that if I had an hour just to talk about records or albums or whatever you want to call them, I would do that. Maybe one day we will do that. And then in 2013, it all changed again for me. So my father-in-law, I remember, he was starting to come over a lot, and he always loves to sing. Bless his heart. He's not even a professional singer, but he might have you fooled because he does sing really good. And he was always singing these country guys. He's a country music fan. And for me, I didn't like country. Like it didn't strike me. There was a time, I think in 2012, 2013, I think where Florida Georgia Line, who I love now, by the way, was on WWE, which is something that I do love, even though you could argue the product's not always great, but that's a different topic for a different time. And I remember them coming on WWE, and I'm like, these guys, man, what is this? This is stupid. Like, I think they were playing like Cruise. I didn't even like Cruise, okay? But my father-in-law, he loved this music. Excuse me. So he would always be coming by and singing. Like he just, he would come over and he would just happen to be singing. He would love to sing a couple of songs. There was one in particular, Till My Last Day by Justin Moore, that he loved a lot because that made him thought about some ex-girlfriend he had. And then there was Brett Eldredge, Don't Ya? And there was my gateway into country. And I remember we were going to Charleston, South Carolina, which is my home away from home. And one day I will live in Charleston, South Carolina. It will happen. And we were going to the fair in Ladson, which is just outside of Charleston. And Brett Eldredge was playing this fair. We were going down there to see Brett. Well, my father-in-law was going down there to see Brett Eldredge. I call him Double J. I was about to call him Double J. And we were going down there just to go down there because we love to go down there all the time. And I went to this show and I saw Brett play, and believe it or not, I started to get hooked. That first album that Brett put out, which the name escapes me at the moment. I'm sure if I sat here and thought about it silently, I could probably figure it out in my head. But I think Bring You Back. There you go. Right? Is that right? I don't know. Somebody Google it and then tweet me or Instagram me about it. And I heard Don't Ya? And then I heard a song called Signs. All these songs, and they just blew me away. Same weekend, we're listening to the radio in town, and another song comes on by a different artist, and it changed everything for me. That artist was Thomas Rhett, and the song, Get Me Some of That. This song, now, to understand me, you have to understand that if a song is super catchy, if the hook is there, I don't give a damn what the genre is, I'm all on it. Like if you were to look at my phone right now and what's on my phone, you'd be hella confused. Not even gonna lie to you. But if it's got a catchy hook on it, I'm all in. And so I heard Get Me Some of That, and I had to proceed to keep going back and listening to the song because I just could not get enough of it. It was that good. And from there on out, I started seeking out other country music. Because I said to myself, if this is what country sounds like now, I want all in on it. So to bring it all back to where we were 10 minutes ago? Yeah, 10 minutes ago. Chris Lane is in an interesting place because he's smack dab in the middle of this current country music scene, which is very pop oriented. If you were to listen to artists like Thomas Rhett, Dan and Shay, Chris Lane, country is probably not the first thing that would come to your mind. Again, this bothers a lot of people, but it does not bother me. I can't get enough of this stuff. And Chris Lane's music is very much pop, R&B oriented. You might confuse him for a Justin Timberlake type album. I'm not going to compare him to Justin Timberlake. I think Chris is amazing, and even if I were to compare him, he would probably tell me I was dead wrong. So no, he's not Justin Timberlake, but the style of the music could be confused for Justin Timberlake-esque type stuff. It's amazing. And yes, in the middle of their set, they cover NSYNC. Yes, they do. They cover other stuff too, Bon Jovi, Journey, and then they have a bunch of originals they played. And just to see Chris's confidence on the stage, his interaction with the fans, which he's never really had a problem with, but just to see him kind of evolve it and kind of the way that he acts with everybody is really cool. But the one thing that really strikes me about Chris that I'm so impressed with is his love for his fans. I'm going to tell you a story, the kind of stuff you won't hear about any artist, really. And as far as Chris Lane, and this is how it goes. So I was in South Carolina, shocker, at a festival called the Carolina Country Music Festival, and Chris was playing on the second stage. He was the headlining act of the last day, the third day, Sunday. And, you know, Chris is always one of those type of artists that you'll see where he'll either jump down in front of the stage, or if there's a catwalk, he goes out on the catwalk, and if fans are holding out their phones and they want to take a selfie, he'll take a selfie with you. That's kind of become a thing too, which is kind of cool. I've gotten a couple of those from different people over the years. Mostly girls do it. I'm not ashamed. I really like these artists, and if I can get a picture with them, so be it. I don't look at it like, oh, it's a girl's thing to do. Anyway, so after he gets done, and he plays like a 45-minute set, maybe 30, but it felt like 45. So we'll go with 45. He's sweating. He just crushed that performance. And no, like a lot of artists, he's not rushing off the stage. He's jumping off the stage to the front of the guardrail, and he's meeting with the fans. And I'm not talking about, 5, 6 fans and, okay, guys, I got to go. He literally stayed and signed each and every autograph, took each and every picture. And there was probably 200 or 300 people that stuck around after the show was over to wait for him. And I saw him meet with every single person. That's impressive. Absolutely impressive. And you know what? Screw it. I will tell the story about hanging out with him in Silver Spring. There's nothing, raunchy about it. There's nothing, crazy about going on his bus. But I just want to speak to the kind of guy that Chris Lane is. So here's my story. It was February 13th of 2016, and Chris was opening for Dustin Lynch on the Hell of a Night tour. I don't know why there was a long pause there. Sorry, it didn't end. I was collecting my thoughts. Earlier in the month, or maybe in January, I went on Chris's website as I noticed that he gave out meet and greets for free, but it was like a lottery. So you would register your name, and perhaps you might be selected to meet Chris. So, as luck would have it, that particular week, I got lucky, and I met Chris. I was picked to meet Chris. Now, at my job, the middle of the month, which was right around this time, is one of the busiest times all month long for my company. The company that I work for, not my company. Sorry, I don't want to make it seem like it's my company. The company I work for, it's very busy. And the week, it was so busy. I was stress on an all-time high. But going to a concert was going to be the way to relieve that stress. Trust me. So, as I mentioned before, I'd already seen Chris and Dustin on the same tour in Richmond, Virginia, back in November. So here it was February. They'd already traveled the whole country, and now they were swinging back through the East Coast. and doing the Fillmore in Silver Spring, which is one of my favorite clubs to see a show at. Even more favorite now after this night. So this is actually the night where I met a good friend of mine on Instagram, Brandon, and his girlfriend, and they were out in the cold waiting to get in just like I was. And I remember mentioning that I had an extra meet and greet, and I was striking up a conversation with Brandon and his girlfriend, and they were so nice, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to do something nice. I'm going to offer up my meet and greet to them, and they can, they can figure out who's going to take it. Maybe one person likes Chris, one person don't. I don't know. Of course, Brandon, the smooth-ass gentleman that he is, gives the meet and greet to his lady. And so we had talked, and we had kind of formed almost like a friendship right then and there, and we decided we were going to sit together at the show. Now, the Fillmore is general admission, but they have these balconies, which you could pay like $10 and get a nice seat right on the edge of the balcony for a great view up top. And so we just kind of decided, hey, let's all sit together on the balcony. I'll pay the extra $10. I don't care. Not going to bother me. And so we do that. And I go with Brandon's girl down to the meet and greet area. We get in line. She meets him first. I let her, that's the gentleman I am. I say, you go right ahead of me and you meet him. Plus, there's always something about a meet and greet where I like to be towards the back of the line, because I feel like, early on in the line, they're trying to rush people through, and then as you get close to the end, you can kind of take your time. There's a pro tip if you ever go to a meet and greet. Try to get towards the back of the line. You'll get more time with the artist, usually, unless they're really trying to rush you. So anyway, I walk up, I extend my hand, I say, hey, Chris, I'm Gary. He says, hey, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you. And I said, dude, I got to tell you, man, this week has been the week from hell at work, and getting to meet you, winning your meet and greet lottery, I'm like, man, I said, I know Fix is about a different song, but I said, man, I thought to myself, that Chris Lane, he's fixing some shit. He starts busting out laughing. His the guy who works with him, I don't know if he's the tour manager or just somebody else on the crew, starts laughing. So we take the picture, and I said, man, I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. I had my beard at the time, and I said, dude, look over to your left on the balcony and look for this big grizzly bastard rocking out to your stuff, man. And he's like, all right, dude, I'm going to look for you. So Chris is on stage, and this was during the song For Her, which is actually a slower jam, and it's meant for ladies, and I'm up there just rocking out because I love the song. And he looks at me, and I was getting a clip of the song on my phone, and he looks up and he points at me. He sees me, and I'm into it. I didn't think nothing of it. It was just, hey, dude, because you're in this unique position where you get to meet an artist and tell them what you think about them, and then maybe you can sneak a message. A lot of times people will, they'll use this opportunity for many things. Maybe if, they want something, maybe they're an artist themselves and they want something from the artist. That's not me at all. I just said, hey, dude, look up to your left. I'll be up there rocking out to your stuff. And he looked, he noticed, he pointed. I didn't think anything else more of it. When Dustin Lynch was playing, I get a tap on my shoulder, and it's the same guy, and forgive me because I don't remember the guy's name, but he was working with Chris. He's either his tour manager or somebody who works on the tour. Probably a tour manager, likely. I don't know. And he says, hey, dude, if you wouldn't mind, Chris wants to see you after the show. And I'm thinking to myself, what? You kidding me? This is like, he's like, if you wouldn't mind, if you have time after the show, can you wait? I said, yes, I can. And he said, okay, meet me down at the merch table after the show, and we'll meet up. Okay, great. So the show's over, and here's a line of people waiting to meet Chris. And this was the first time where I saw this thing with Chris, where he's just such a real guy. Okay? And if Chris ever hears this, dude, I apologize. I don't mean to blow up your spot. I'm sure you do nice stuff like this for people all the time, and I don't mean to blow up your spot, but I just I feel the need to share this with people so they know how cool you really are, man. So I'm sorry. I know you do this stuff out of the kindness of your heart, And so I don't want to blow up your spot, bro, but this is a story I feel needs sharing, especially after seeing you again on Wednesday. So anyway, I'm waiting, and the guy says, hey, he's going to meet with these people, and when we're done, we're going to go and talk, or whatever exactly he said. And I said, okay. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And he's just meeting with everybody. He met until there was nobody left. And by the time the whole crowd was gone, there were 2 other people there. And the guy who was working on the tour, we'll just call him the tour manager. I don't want to keep saying the guy, because that's just weird. The tour manager said, okay, now we're going to go back. And I'm thinking, wait, what? Like, I thought we were just going to maybe talk for a minute. Maybe he just wanted to say, hey, dude, I saw you rocking out. You were awesome, whatever. Like, he's like, no, we're going to go back. And I'm like, okay. And I try to prepare myself for this. Excuse me. I try to prepare myself for this mentally, because this has never happened before to me. So we walk back into the empty venue as they're taking the stage apart. And we get stopped by security. And they said, whoa, where are they going? And they said, they're coming with us. They said, not without a pass, they're not. So the tour manager's got a couple of extra guest passes, VIP, backstage, whatever you want to call them, and pulls them out of his back pocket and hands one to me and the 2 other people that are there. And now we're walking downstairs. Yes, the Fillmore in Silver Spring has a downstairs, like a basement area, and there's dressing rooms down there. And now my mind's just really blown, because I just don't expect this. Like, this is so weird. Like, it's cool, but it's really weird. Like, it's just something I'm not expecting. And we go into Chris's dressing room, and there's the whole band. First people I see are Sid and Zach, the bass player and guitarist, respectively. And they're just in there. Everybody's hanging out. They're talking about the show. Chris's twin brother Corey's in there. And they're all just hanging out, talking. There's like Chick-fil-A food all over the place, by the way. I don't know if they have like a food fight or what. Like, I'm not trying to pull up their spot, but I came in there. There's like waffle fries on the ground, and there's beers in there, and they must have had a good time. I'll just say that. That was before I got in there. Not my business. I don't know what they're doing, but they must have been having a good time in there. So I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, whatever. We're just going to hang out in the dressing room. And then they're like, all right, so we're packing up, then we're going to go on the bus. I'm like, wait, what? I had to stop dead in my tracks again, because I'm like, okay. So first, I'm mentally prepped just to talk to Chris after the show, probably at his merch table. No, we're going backstage. Okay, now I got to prep to go in his dressing room. Okay, we're going to hang out in his dressing room. No, now I got to prep. We're going on the damn bus. And this is just mind-blowing to me. So we head off to the bus. And Chris's brother has got either an iPhone or an iPod plugged into some speaker system, and all night long we're listening to some old Backstreet Boys, some NSYNC, some rap, maybe some Usher was in there possibly, some T-Pain, I'm pretty sure. Just a variety of things. And we're just hanging out. Like, Chris is like, yeah, man, go on there, get yourself a drink, and just hang out, have a good time. And I'm like, okay. Now, on one end, I'm super nervous because I'm socially awkward in general. That's just kind of who I am. And so I'm not talking to a lot of people at first. And then the opening act, Tyler Rich, is on there. He's on the bus, and I start talking to him a little bit. He's dancing with a couple people. And I'm just kind of hanging out. I see Chris is talking with some people. I kind of keep my distance to a certain degree because I don't want to just, bother him or whatever while he's trying to chill on the bus. Like, because I have like a million things that I could say, But I'm like, all right, I'll just wait until I leave, and then I'll tell him what I really want to say. And then Dustin Lynch comes on the bus, and I'm not expecting this because every time I've seen Dustin Lynch, he's in a cowboy boots, cowboy hat. He's coming on, and I don't want to break up I don't want to blow up Dustin's spot, but he's got a ball cap on. He's got not a sign of country clothes to be found on this guy. I almost didn't recognize him, and he's chilling. So there's a party on Chris Lane's bus, and when it was time to go, because they said, okay, we're getting ready to pull off. We got to get ready to leave. And this had to be, I don't know. This was a couple hours, maybe 1 a.m., maybe closer to 2. I don't really recall. But I walk up to Chris. I shake his hand. I give him a hug. I said, dude, this was a night I'll never forget, man. I appreciate you so much. And I told him, I said, dude, you keep doing you, man. I said, I like your music. I said, I think I told him, quote, you're straight ass money. Which is totally true. He really is, but he's a humble guy. I'm sure he probably, maybe he doesn't always want to hear that stuff, but I said, man, you're straight ass money. I said, I wish you nothing but the best, and I'll catch you down the road, man. And he said, thanks for hanging. He's like, I hope that this week was less, I hope you ended the week on a high note, for lack of a better term. And, it was just like, man, they remembered me mentioning that, and they thought to invite me on their bus because I had a bad week. That's huge. Like, I'm sure artists probably do this all the time randomly. They just don't, they don't want to be known about it. And it's not like we have a million listeners, so not everybody's going to find out about it, but I just thought it to share the story, I didn't give away any like intricate details of the happenings on the bus or anything like that, which really it was just people drinking, dancing, and listening to music, which is really what it was. It was a good time though. I had a blast. And ever since then, I was already a fan of Chris Lane, but ever since then, I'm just like, man, I'm all about Chris Lane, man. This guy, he's legit. If I can get a ticket to his show, if I can come out, I'll travel to see Chris Lane. I'll skip gym night and go and see him and do gym night the next night. I'll go to work on 3 hours of sleep and power through the day, get off work, go to the gym, power through that, and go home and crash, because Chris Lane is worth it to me. You're talking about a guy that plays, he travels the country, which can be very tiring, doing radio, rehearsals. Sometimes these guys are recording albums while they're touring on the back of their bus, a variety of things. It's not just, I ride around on a bus and I play for an hour a night, or an hour and a half in his case. Like, there's a lot that goes on. And for him to stay after a show and meet with each and every one of his fans, that's super cool. So if he's willing to make that sacrifice, I'm willing to make the sacrifice to travel to see this dude and to see him tear it up, and I'll continue to support him forever, man. He's awesome. So there's my Chris Lane story. There you go. You want to know about the guy Chris Lane is? There you go. And that's just off of my one experience. I'm sure you could probably talk to 10 other people that have had either similar experiences or know Chris better, and they could tell you a lot more about Chris. And I hope that one day Chris will, I'm going to find out who his publicist is, and I'm going to see if I can't get him on this podcast, and he and I can talk music for a little while and kind of dig in his brain and talk to him about it. But that's my Chris Lane story. I saw him on Wednesday night with Morgan Wallen. It was a hell of a show. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was just a tremendous show. I had to do a quick Instagram story because look at these leaves. Look how cool these look. So awesome. Getting out of work early, thanks to my boss for that. And I am going to be doing some podcasting on the way home. Looking forward to it. It's 3:06 on Friday afternoon, and I am leaving work now, as you just heard from my Instagram story. It's kind of cool getting out of work a little bit early. So, I think what's happening is I'm going back to King's Dominion tonight, which should be exciting. The wife wanted to go and check out the Halloween thing, so we're going to go and take a look. And I was there last week, but I didn't get to check out much of the haunted stuff, so I think we're going to focus more on that this time, or I will this time. I went with my cousin last week. He's not really into all the horror stuff, so we just focus more on rides, which is fine. Kind of a slower day. I mean, you had a couple things going on, got that stuff out of the way, and now I'm just finished with my work day. Last week, I think I mentioned about this left turn, which is pretty damn tricky, and in fact, here I am, sitting, waiting to make a left turn. I'm taking bets now, just with myself, as to if I'll be sitting here until 3:30, which is my normal time to leave. If I'll be sitting here until 3:30 waiting to make this left, that's how long it's going to take, likely, to make a left turn. It's just constant, steady motion. They once put a traffic light here, but it's not like a proper traffic light. It's a flashing light. Flashing yellow for the people on the main road and flashing red for us, which is supposed to tell people to slow down, but nobody ever actually slows down. Like, it never happens. Ever. So, being that I'm not getting off so early today, I won't be able to I won't have time to go to the gym today. I'm going to have to push it until tomorrow, which is looking like it'll be a 4-day gym week instead of a 5-day, unless I do 2 workouts tomorrow, which I very well may do. I'm not opposed to making stuff up. I will make up workout days when I need to make them up. And if that means working out twice in a day, I did it last Saturday, even though last Saturday I didn't quite get a full workout in. It was kind of just a real rare deal. So, yeah, I just decided to make a right turn and then bust a Yui up at the next turn. Sitting here waiting, and I'm like, I got off early. Why am I going to spend the extra half an hour padding that I have waiting to make a damn left turn? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I was going to probably just do a double up on the workout tomorrow. I mean, why not, right? Like, if I spread it out like 8-10 hours apart, it can't be all that bad, right? So I think that's the plan. I think that's how we're going to do it. Anyway, so far, as far as like an overall update on my fitness journey, I've been talking a lot. I've been doing a lot of Instagram Live lately. So if you happen to be somebody that follows me on the podcast, maybe you know me on Twitter or you know me on Facebook, but you don't know me on Instagram, I've been doing a lot of Instagram Live lately, where I could just interact with people on a whole other level, which I really am a firm believer in Instagram Live. I really, really enjoy that kind of like instant chat with people. It's a lot of fun. And just kind of like, you know, if they want to ask me stuff or if I want to ask them stuff, like we're all there to hang out and chat together. But one of the things I mentioned, going back to what I was actually trying to say, was something that I told people on Instagram Live, and that was that in 2018, I want to make a new focus in my fitness journey. And it's kind of like operating on the thought of changing things up before I get bored, as opposed to going on and on and on with the same stuff and, you know, just getting worn out of it. Like, either my body stops responding to it the way I want it to, or just basically, I don't know, just stops. You know, either there's no effect or I might mentally get bored with it. So what I thought was there was 2 kind of things that I had in my mind, as far as new workouts to integrate. Now, obviously, I can't do them 4 days a week. At least I don't know that will have time for these, because these are outdoor, as opposed to just going to a gym where you're in the same place and you can kind of control it. You're like, well, I'll do an hour, but, you know, like, one of the things is like outdoor walking and maybe like hiking up some big hills and stuff. And there's a lot of big hills in my neighborhood and outside of my neighborhood. So I feel like it might be beneficial to take one of my workout days, which I kind of beta tested in the summer. And that was walking like around this full kind of like area near around my neighborhood, which ended up being like 2 or 3 miles when you like complete the circle, which is kind of interesting. And there's all kinds of hills, so that makes it, really, really intriguing to me to want to do. So I am definitely thinking about that, working that into my workout. And then also riding a bike. That's another thing. There is a huge path, the George Washington Parkway. It's not too far from my house. I don't live too far from George Washington's house. And so the thought is going where that path starts at Washington's house and riding it into D.C., maybe like once or twice a week, preferably on the weekend, where, I can kind of take as much time as I need, as opposed to, getting off work at 3:30 on an afternoon and saying, oh, okay, so now I'm going to go ride my bike into D.C. on a weeknight. Like, I don't like the idea of going too far in places on weeknights. I'd rather have that more controlled gym atmosphere on a weeknight. It's like, okay, 1 hour and then I'm gone. It's 3 miles from my house. 1 hour and I'm done, and that's it. Whereas on a weekend, I could say, well, I'll get up and I'll I'll ride my bike, and if I'm gone 3-4 hours, who gives a shit? Like, it's fine. Like, it's cool. Like, it's no big deal because it's the weekend and I got nothing else planned. You guys get the point? So that's the idea with that. So biking and walking more outside, integrated with climbing big hills and eventually mountains. I wouldn't mind going out west in Virginia, not West Virginia, but like going out west in Virginia to some places like Shenandoah or Skyline Drive, and just finding some big ass like mountains and hills to climb just for the fun of it, right? I mean, that sounds like a good time to me. So I'm definitely gonna want to try that for sure. And that's just me. Like, I waited so long on the bike just because I know that there's kind of like this unwritten like weight limit on bikes where it's really kind of capped at like 300. I could be wrong on this. I believe you probably could ride the bike bigger than 300 pounds, but like you may end up destroying the bike. Like one guy at the bike store told me, well, you could get a bike, but you might be breaking this, that, and the other thing on a semi-regular basis and getting different parts replaced. I mean, the guy may not have known what the hell he was talking about, but nonetheless. And there's some Dodge in front of me who's revving the shit out of his engine. My thought was, just get under 300, because I almost feel like I'd feel more comfortable sitting on a bike with all that weight kind of sitting on that little seat, being under 300. I feel like that would be more of a comfort zone. So by the time January, February rolls around, I don't know the exact number of where I'll be, but I'm willing to bet it'll probably be in like the 260, maybe 250 range if I just take a random guess. Maybe a little higher, maybe, but either way, I'm more comfortable with riding a bike at that weight than I am, 300, 320 pounds, or even 372 where I started. So that's the point. That's what I'm thinking about. I was talking with people on Instagram Live about it. Now look, if you are somebody that maybe you know me on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere else, I don't even know, right? Maybe you have an Instagram, but we're not connected on Instagram. Connect with me at Gary Cantrell. I'm going live. I've been stepping up my Instagram game this year in a major way. And what I found is that I'm getting the most gain, not in a business sense of, holy crap, I added all these followers and now I'm making a bunch of sales. No, I'm getting rich in life because I'm making so many new connections with people. Like, this is huge for me. Coming from somebody who used to be socially awkward and still am to a certain degree. I think I've said this before, but like if we were to meet up, if we were to meet up somewhere and it wasn't pre-planned, I would be a little bit weird just because I'm still weird in these situations. Like, I've been this way all my life. But connecting online just seems so easy. It comes so easy to me. I can easily connect with somebody online, and I feel like as I continue to evolve how I communicate with people, I think it's also going to be to my benefit, where I'll be able to, meet up with people in person and handle it in a much better way. I believe. I'm constantly working on it. Like, I'm fixing my health and I'm working on my communication skills. Communication, it's been one thing that I've had kind of an issue with in all aspects of life, whether it's work, whether it's personal. I've lost a lot of friends over the years because, I couldn't be a better communicator. And it's so weird. Like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. It's just a way I've always been. Like, I won't have a problem with somebody, but like, I'm bad with keeping in touch a lot of times. I've got family that's like, man, I never hear from you anymore. And I feel terrible about it. Like, I really do. And it's like, if I can't respond to family members or close friends that I know offline, if I can't keep up with them properly, like, how the hell can I keep up with anybody? And I try my best. Like, with Instagram, it's like there's a lot of people that are on similar journeys to me, and I want to help and motivate them in any way I can, inspire them in any way I can. And with that, it involves keeping in contact. And so that's something that I'm super focused on going forward. And in 2018, one of my major goals that I want to continue to work on is my communication. I want to get better with it. I want to stay in touch better with family, friends, new friends on Instagram, who I hope to become, better friends, closer friends. These are all things that I want to work on in 2018. I'm not that, but see, when I say that, it doesn't mean I'm going to wait until 2018 to work on it. I'm constantly working on it now, but I hope in 2018 to continue to put a hyper focus around it and make it even better than it is now. Which I would argue now is like 100 times better than it was 2 years ago, and then 2 years ago, 1,000,000 times better than it was before that, because up until about 2 years ago, I was just really super bad with it. I mean, just overly bad. So, a lot of things to work on. Communication is key. So I'm going to work on that. I mean, look, I can come on a podcast and communicate with all of you, and I feel like I could do that very well. So in person, I need to do that better. I really do. It seems like I can get out my deepest thoughts doing this podcast in the car, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so pumped up to be doing this version of the podcast on a weekly basis. Like, going forward, I hope I get a guest every single week, which will push me to do this. Because I feel like on weeks where I don't have a guest, I'm not going to feel obligated or pushed to do this. I'll just do my podcast in my house, and it won't be nearly as fun. The feedback I got from last week's show that I did in the car, the Day in the Life episode, has been getting excellent feedback, and I do appreciate that. Do know that if you take the time to write me with your thoughts on this podcast, I take everything you say under heavy consideration. I may not always agree with everything that everybody says or thinks about me or my podcast, but I will always strive to listen to every comment and take it in the take it the best way I can, and see if there's any way that what that person is saying could fit into what I think my vision of this podcast is. I'm really open about that. So I was just blown away at some of the feedback I was getting to last week's show, and that tells me now more than ever that maybe this is the new direction of the podcast when I'm not interviewing somebody. When it's just me and my thoughts. Like, in the car, sitting in traffic is where my thoughts are at their strongest. When I'm in the car, when I'm not communicating with others, when I'm just sitting here thinking of kind of all my thoughts, collecting all my thoughts. I think that's why a lot of people, when they want to think deep, or maybe they're upset and they leave, they get in their car, they go in their car to drive away, because the car is where you get your thoughts out. You can kind of put it all out on the table. Whereas if I'm sitting at home on my desk with my mic on my hand, I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, this and that and the other thing, and this is what I think about this, and here's my update on this. But here it's like I'm in my car and I'm just sharing my thoughts. Like, and this may come across like rambling to some people, but I don't think it's rambling. I mean, I think this is just kind of like where my mind is at. Like this is the most open me that I think anybody's ever going to get. It's all about communicating and putting my thoughts out there, because this is the Gary Cantrell podcast, and I want to take this to a whole other level. And I can't do that. I can't do that if I don't evolve the podcast. It's got to continually evolve. I can't believe I don't even know how I'm saying it. It's got to continually evolve. And so me sitting in my car recording is how that process is going to happen. I mean, ultimately that's the deal, right? So that's what we got to do. That's the plan. That's always the plan. That's how we're going to do it. So I was just recording an Instagram story there. So me making a flub up is my post, my contribution. So that's cool. That's really cool. I like the Instagram stories. I'm a big fan of Instagram stories. I think Instagram stories are a fun way to share just like a quick snapshot of where I'm at, what I'm doing. It's kind of just like that quick little here's what's going on. Live, on the other hand, is totally a different animal. I'm thinking about going on live here in a little bit. When I finish recording this podcast, thinking about jumping on live and saying hi to people and just seeing how everybody's doing. I just love that instant connection with people. I love being able to just jump on and click that live button, and here comes a swarm of people in the chat like, hey, what's up, guys? Like, I love that. I'm all about that. So I need to figure out how I can do that more. There's a guy on Instagram. You should look him up. Todd.live. Got a random follow from this guy. And I'm pretty sure, my preconceived notion of the guy was I was pretty sure he was just following me to pump up his numbers. Really close follower to follower ratio. But he talks about a lot of tech stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'll play along. I'll follow him. And he started going live like every day. I mean, it's in his name, right? Todd.live. And so I started just like checking out some of his live videos, and he was interacting with everybody that came in, and I realized, okay, I'll continue to follow this guy. I don't think he's a spammer. And he explained that he wasn't really, he was trying to get up to 10,000 followers because Instagram, they have this thing where a lot of the cool features are unlocked at 10,000, like swipe up in stories to put a link. Like, so many times, if I'm plugging this very podcast on Instagram, it sucks that I can only just type my web URL and you can't just click that link. Like, somebody has to go out of their way to type in the address to my page. And that's super inconvenient. Like, most people aren't going to do that. Most people don't do that. So that's what kind of sucks. Like, I just missed my turn. That's what kind of sucks about the whole thing. So I get what he was saying. But anyway, he kind of has inspired me a little bit to start going live more. To start communicating more on a live basis. So there you go, Todd. I'm taking your advice, man. I'm going live more on Instagram. I'm almost at the point now where it's gonna almost be like a daily thing. Like, I'm gonna try to go live once a day to the people on Instagram, the great weight loss community folks that I've been connecting with on Instagram. I'm gonna make it a point to go live once a day. And in 2018, maybe I'll set a goal to go twice. Excuse me. That was a combination of the word twice and the word live. I'm going to try to go live twice a day on Instagram if I can help it. I'm going to give it my best effort, my best shot to just increase the game of social media and connecting with people on a different level. One thing in 2018, and I almost feel like this should really be an episode for like December, right? Like right before New Year's. Like in 2018, I want to do this, but I don't know. I just got kind of on this kick. You know, I felt like I really wanted to kind of, you know, this year I started doing Snapchat. That's what I'm trying to get to. I'm sorry. Sometimes I feel like I'm trying to figure out what I want to say, and then I'm like Snapchat. Okay, that's the topic I want to go with. I don't know. My brain just acts weird sometimes. Sorry. So Snapchat is something else that I have tried to work on here and there, and I haven't always nailed Snapchat fully. You know, I'm not perfect with Snapchat. I don't use it enough, and that is my own fault. I 100% should be using it more. I mentioned, I think in the last podcast about Gary Vaynerchuk. He talks about everybody should be on Snapchat. I'm on it. I just don't use it enough. I should use it more. I should share more content. The only thing I don't figure out, and maybe you guys, if you're Snapchat savvy, maybe you can educate me, like, how do people find you that are outside of your normal friendship, your normal kind of like friend zone? Because the way I always envisioned Snapchat was, Snapchat was something that like you did with your friends, like, right? Like you had like a group of friends, and that's how a lot of people today, younger people, communicate. And then, like, if you're a guy, you're dating a girl dating a guy, maybe it's like where you throw down some shady-ass pictures, right? Like, that's kind of what I always thought Snapchat was, but apparently there's more to it. I just haven't figured it out yet. And as a result, I'm like, well, Instagram, I'm able to track everything. You know, I can kind of see what's going on with what. So, with Instagram, because I can see people and all the interaction, I just continue to do all my interaction there because there's a way to measure it. And I know that if I use the right hashtags, new people are going to find it. If I include hashtags in my stories or locations, more people are going to find it. So I just haven't figured it out. I haven't cracked the code on Snapchat. I wish I have, but unfortunately, I have not. So I really, really need to figure it out. I just haven't figured it out yet. So that's really all I've got as of right now. In this whole podcast, you've heard quite a bit. Weight loss, Instagram, Snapchat, Chris Lane stories. So I think we're going to wrap it up right there. And that's another thing, too. I want to figure out when it's time to wrap it up. I don't want to go on just for the sake of, did I fill an hour? Like, if I don't have an hour's worth of stuff, I'm not going to do an hour. I'm not going to ramble on and extend something, because I do know how to extend stuff. I've listened back to some of my old podcasts, whether it be this one or in the past, where I felt like maybe I extended something too long. Everything changes. It's all changing. So if I have 20 minutes of content, it's going to be a 20-minute podcast, right? Like, that's the thought. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to go on and on and on about stuff if there's nothing more to go on about. So that's kind of my strategy going forward with this podcast as it pertains to me. When I do the interviews, I've always kind of told my interview people, hey, I think a half an hour is a good number. If we really get to gelling well and we go longer, so be it. But, a half an hour is good. Like, I'm good with a half an hour. So with this podcast, obviously I'd love every podcast to be 1 hour, but I'm okay if it's only 20 minutes, because if I can get the bulk out of the content and the point I'm trying to make in 20 minutes, and ultimately you said, well, damn, I was looking forward to hearing Gary's podcast, and man, it's an hour. I just don't have time for an hour yet, or whatever. And I was able to get to my point in 20 minutes, and you're like, holy crap. Wow, this podcast was only 20 minutes. Great. So that's the point. That's the move. That's what I'm trying to do with it. And that's the bottom line. So, podcast over. I'll talk to you guys next week.